So we'll need to get that.
We ready, Luke?
All set.
Okay. Let's call the order of the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation meeting Tuesday, September 17, 2024. Roll call is approve the notice has been posted.
Yes, sir.
Okay, minutes, is everybody a chance to review the minutes? I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the August 20th. Go second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Second summary financial statements.
Your financial statements to the end of July are attached here. Anybody have any questions on those?
Questions, I'll ask for motion to accept the executive summary financial statements.
So,
Jonathan, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's the only call.
This starts with 1807 Bellevue. We had this under contract for quite some time with a city employee who was the owner occupier, and she was just unable to get contractors to quote a price that she could finance for the renovations. So we recently put it back on the market. We have 3 offers here, and they are recommending sale to Champs Remodeling because they are planning to use cash for this project. So we're not worried about them running into any issues with closing and contractor quotes. He does all of his own work, he has his own crew, so we're confident in that. He recently renovated 608 Teal that he purchased from us. Did a beautiful job, sold it to an owner occupant for over $200,000, which blew my mind on a busy street like Teal. But he did very high quality work. We're confident that he'll do the same here, and hopefully a similar sale will help improve comps in the area. This is not the highest bidder, but we think the highest chance for success. And Terry's not here today, but Terry and I have been spending an awful lot of time tracking down folks who aren't finishing their renovations. And so going with somebody who we know has a proven track record and can do a good job in a timely manner is very attractive.
And there's a limit, they have how much time to renovate?
He has a year.
But those other renovations.
Oh, yeah, many of them are overdue and paying extension fees, and we're working with them to get them back on track.
And so that you look at board going who's really careers and all that.
I can if you would like to, but it's constantly several that we're working on.
Just the news, so.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when we don't generally put those on you, if they try to come back and buy more from us, if they're not in good standing, we're not eligible to buy.
Questions? Okay, let's go on.
All right, 138-40 McLennan is a 2-family home. We put this back on the market fairly recently too. It has a brand new roof using ARPA funds. Again, not necessarily recommending the highest bidder, but the bidder that we think has the most chance for a good quality project and for success. The Lucians would actually live there themselves, whereas the slightly higher bidder would flip it to an owner occupant. Those buyers have done flips in the past, and they've done an adequate job, but I wouldn't say that it's as stellar as the Champs that I just discussed. And 402 Pond Street has not been on the market for very long either. We just acquired this back in June. Was this in that match of donations that we got? That it was that city, yeah. Okay. The city had negotiated with somebody who had some code violations and encouraged them strongly to donate a bundle of properties to the land bank, and this was one of them. It also includes a couple of demolition candidates and some vacant lots, but this one was marketable. And these buyers will owner occupy. And next up is a piece of a vacant lot on South Ave. This 4 vacant lots that are adjacent to each other that you see here on the map. These were the lots that were under contract with Women's Economic Institute. We have been holding them off the market as a courtesy in case she was going to come back with a complete offer for us for this month in anticipation that they might be applying for the law and housing tax credits. The application is due today. Today or tomorrow, might be off. Tomorrow, thank you. But they did not come back with a complete offer. The board previously indicated that you'd like us to hold them off the market as a courtesy until this time. So we're planning on putting it back on the market now. This gentleman who lives at 1541, he's an owner occupant. He's been asking us nicely for probably 9 months now that he would like to buy a piece of this lot next door. We didn't want to sell him so much land that it was going to undermine Charlene's site plan and where her building was going to sit. So I previously told him I could sell you 6 feet, but no more. And he says, well, if I can't get 20 feet, I don't want any at all. And so now that we're putting these back on the market, I'm recommending that we sell him 20 feet. It would enable him to put in a driveway. You can see his proposed site plan on the next page. And that would still leave us a sizable chunk of land that we can market for new construction. This is in an annex zoning district, so we'd be looking for somebody to do something mixed use and preferably mixed income here if possible.
Just a procedural piece, this is the property with the shared driveway, right?
Yes, so
How
we
does
will.
that work with the,
We'll need to get something recorded stating that those neighbors, right now it's shared, we'll get an easement recorded that says that they have exclusive use of the shared driveway. And I think, oh no, I have one more. 106 Lincoln is this small triangular parcel that really cannot be built on. Oddly enough, it's been a constant site of illegal dumping, and I'm glad to hear of it.
Okay.
And that's all we have for item A.
Okay. That's a motion to accept the sale of multiple authorized, the sale of multiple properties. Second. Nancy, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Authorized sales of 229 East Side Left, the applicant bills.
I put in your packet here a news article about their plan for the adjacent property. This Valiant Real Estate USA Inc. has purchased a large industrially zoned property behind this row of properties based on Hiawatha. They have an approved pilot. They're putting in a dealership to sell electric school buses, and it will also be a service center. And they would really like to clean up this frontage on Hiawatha that has several lighted buildings on it. This is a demolition candidate. They would like to buy the resulting vacant lot for a price equal to the cost of demolition.
They're moving from Madison County.
I believe so, yeah.
is there any zoning issue?
No, I don't think so.
No, there's not.
That's the fault of that.
Yeah, I just, you know, this is like residential zone and they're not trying to work it with the industrial zone.
I don't think they actually plan on merging it. I think they just want to improve the look of it.
See,
It says certain work cited by certain people.
Yeah, it'll certainly be a visual improvement. They're working on privately purchasing a few others, and there's, I think, an adjacent vacant lot that the city is working on foreclosing on that they would also like to get through us down the line.
I'll ask for a motion to authorize sales of 229 East Hiawatha Boulevard, Allen, Real Estate USA.
Second.
Second. Nancy, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Contract for demolition of 229 East Hiawatha.
This is obviously a companion to the previous item. We had gotten bids on this back in February, I want to say. It's been quite some time. So I did reach out to all the demolition contractors and confirm whether or not they could still honor those prices. Tipping fees had increased at some of the landfills. Scanlon increased his price $1,000 over last time we looked at this item, so that's reflected here on the executive summary. And the low bidder is still Chris Foley, and so we're seeking the board's authorization to award this contract to them.
sorry, didn't we already award this?
We never actually voted to award the job because I didn't want to do it until we had a buyer under contract.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? I'll ask for a motion for contract demolition of 229 East Hiawatha. So. Nancy, second one. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
This is just silly. We sold 127 Baker to Douglas Moran, who renovated it. It looks beautiful now. He applied to buy the lot next door where he wants to put a driveway. When he applied, I'm not sure if he had yet transferred 127 Baker into an LLC that him and his son-in-law are the members of. If he was the sole member, you had already approved selling it to him. We could just close and sell it to the LLC. But since there is an additional member that you have not previously approved, we need you to authorize us to sell it to both Douglas and Marlon Simmons, who are members of 127 Baker LLC. They're still gonna put a driveway on it.
Good work, John.
Glad I served a purpose.
Okay, any questions? It's your motion to accept modified sale 129-131 Baker. Roll. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, authorize land bank contract for stabilization tool in West Kennedy.
This is a little chaotic, as you can see from the table we've put together. They're really unusual property owners too. This is Jim and Lindsay Vermillion. I don't know if you guys remember them. They purchased this property from us quite some time ago. They moved here from Alaska. She came here to be a medical student at Upstate. She has since been diagnosed with MS, and she's no longer going to medical school, but they have decided that they want to live here permanently. When they shared this with me, my initial offer was, I don't want you guys to feel like this house is an anchor around you. If you want to go, home and live with your family, I would totally understand and work something out with the enforcement mortgage. But they want to finish the project and they want this to be their permanent residence. So I'm impressed that they're pressing on. They have had a variety of setbacks with this project over the past few years. They hired a roofing company to redo the roof, and it was left basically open to the elements during a large storm that caused some extensive water damage in the house. They are suing that roofing company. That still has not been settled. And then the house itself required a lot more structural work than they anticipated, but they found a great contractor who's been doing that work. They've done some, I think, pretty cool shoring up. It's all square now, which is exciting. But from the outside, it still looks pretty bad. And we don't love the impression that that's giving the neighbors, and the rest of Kennedy Street looks great. As you know, there are virtually no vacant buildings left on the 100 block and 200 block of Kennedy Street. We're now making great progress on the 300 block with the homes that another county is building there. And we have stabilization money available from New York State. We need to hit a certain number of deliverables this year. And they need, even though the roof is done now, they need siding, windows, and they need their front porch rebuilt. Of course, Jim doesn't do anything conventional, so he wants to do this rain screen method. I attached an article about it to the packet so that you can learn a little bit about it. Basically, they're creating an air gap between the sheathing and the siding that will act as an insulative barrier and keep moisture away from the house. They want to use this Everlast product. Dave, is it a cementitious product or is it more like a plasticized wood? Okay. So they've already gotten pretty far. They have put their waterproof barrier over the exterior. They've installed these shims all around the exterior that are going to create a little gap. But we need to go in and completely rebuild the porch. Install that siding, and there'll be kind of a screen at the bottom and the top to keep bugs out. And the windows, because of the way that siding is adding some thickness to the wall, the windows need to be reframed out with deeper boxes before the windows will go in. I was hoping that we would award all of this to one contractor, but the contractor they've been working with, Randy Vidala, he only wants to do the window portion of the project, and I think we should entrust him to do that. One, because he's the lowest bidder, and two, because he's been working really closely with Jim on coming up with this scope, and he really knows what's going to be necessary to make that work. The other two tasks are simpler. So we'd like to award the two window-related line items to Randy Vidala, who is the lowest bidder for that, and the two porch-related items to JK Construction. They are the lowest bidder for that portion of the project. And then the siding installation to GNC Construction, who we've worked with in the past and have had good success with. They are the lowest bidder for that portion of the project. They would come in last and do that piece. And we have enough funding in our LBI line to do this, and we need to at least have it well underway by December 1st, if not done by December 1st, under our current LBI contract. It's usually we do vinyl siding, it's the cheapest option. But we did do party board at 109 McAllister. It was more kind of, none of these are landmark listed, they're not that historic, where they're designated landmarks, but they are historically interesting properties, and this Everlast and the hardy board that we use on McAllister are nicer looking, more historically accurate materials. So I think it's worth doing.
Any questions?
It'll be interesting for us to see how this rain screen method works, and if we want to repeat it on any other houses in the future. I don't know of any other examples in Syracuse that have done this.
But this is 50, some other houses.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Authorize manufacturing contract for stabilization of 201 West Bennington Street.
So moved.
Nancy, second. Mike, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Purchase offer going to Williams, against preference and salvation.
I actually don't think you guys need to make any motion on this today. We don't have a complete proposal. Back in April, Charlene from the Women's Economic Institute came and talked about how she wanted an extension on her previous contract. You guys asked her for a lot more information. She came in May with some of that additional information, and it was just incredibly incomplete at that point. You guys voted to terminate her contract, and we sent a letter saying, this termination doesn't preclude you from coming back and applying in the future, and we'd like you to come back with a complete LIHTC application, all these missing pieces, if you can show that we've got them pulled together, we'll consider another offer. And you asked me as a courtesy to leave these properties off the market until September when the next LIHTC application deadline was coming up. She did send me an incomplete LIHTC application last week. She has come a long way. Previously she didn't have a GC, she didn't have an architect, she didn't have a co-developer, no property manager. She has secured all of those partners, but they still don't have enough to actually submit this week. They haven't applied for any of their permits or site plan approvals that would be needed. So I don't see that you have a complete application to consider here really. And assuming that your opinion hasn't changed, we will put these properties back on market.
Discussion. Hearing none, I'll ask for a, we don't have to do any motion.
Ask for a motion. Yes.
211 Ashworth is regarding ongoing litigation, so I imagine you'll want to enter executive session. If you'd like to handle the discussion items first and do that at the end, you can. Okay. Moving on to the funding request that was submitted to Onondaga County. That memo is here in your packet for you to review. The county executive has issued his budget proposal and included, am I right, $255,000 for the land bank? That's 5,000 more than we've gotten in past years. And I guess I'll turn it over to you, to give us some more inside information.
Yep, we spoke with the county executive, he indicated this year's gonna be a lean budget, so in his initial budget, he wasn't looking to put an item like this in. But I'm working with several county legislators on that, and I think we have a really good shot for this, so I'm kind of like a dog with a bone. This is my fight for this year's budget process. It's a lot of learning for me, so I'm learning that everybody has their fight during the budget process, but this will be mine. And as far as my vote count, we're at 10, and we need 9. So I just need those people to stay. Yeah, don't lie to me. But
That's fantastic. Thank you for your efforts.
6 Dems and 4 Republicans. But yeah, we're gonna push and we're gonna try and get this in our legislative budget. I don't know if everybody knows how the budget process works, but we're gonna, the executive puts the budget forward, the legislature amends it, and then it goes back to the executive for approval. So there is a chance that we win on this side and it goes back and we lose again, but I'm not foreseeing that, and I'm prepared to fight that as well. So
Does he have to vote the whole budget up or down, or does he have the power to do line item vetoes?
I think he can do one item vetoes, actually.
Just curious.
That's a good question. I don't know what the exact answer is there. Because I know in the past, the budget was rejected for, this was from 2019. But I know we can reject the whole thing and send it back to us, but that's a good question. I didn't answer that, I don't know, because that would suck if this. If we couldn't even come back, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm optimistic, and I'm actually meeting with Tim Burtis in 3 hours to talk about this exact proposal. And Caitlin has helped with the inventory sheet, and the legislators do have a lot of questions. They have a lot of questions, but Caitlin has been helping with those answers. So, like I said, I'm optimistic.
Can't thank you enough for your advocacy.
Great. Sounds great.
It's a great learning situation for you. Especially when people tell you they're gonna vote for something.
I know, that's all
And all of a sudden, what?
I'm
Stand like a British first lieutenant at the Battle of the Somme. Follow me.
Yes.
Where's everybody? So we had this.
Is the county legislature chairman receptive to this, or is he?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good deal.
Him, Olson, Ken Bush was,
Yes.
and Kevin Meeker have all given me like tentative guesses, so.
And maybe we'll talk again, because I think there's a couple I need to talk to.
Okay. Yeah. That would really help.
Okay.
Awesome.
Good update. Purchase 211s for the year and 1216 and self-storage. So
We're not ready for a vote at this point because these 3 parcels are owned by SIDA. Public authorities generally have to get properties appraised before they can sell them. And so they have ordered appraisals on these, and then they'll get back to me with that number and we'll negotiate about the purchase. A couple years ago, Land Bank's got legislation passed to exempt us from that requirement, and that has been a big help in terms of cost and the time that it adds to every transaction. But they are still required to do that. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. You'll see in your packet here that we do have a little couple of diagrams showing you where these properties are located, and they're both kind of missing pieces in larger assemblies. So here we can put together an entire acre at the corner of Burt and State if we put these 2 missing pieces in. And on Rayner, there are 3 city-owned properties that we would want to acquire as well, but SIDA is one of the missing pieces, and we have all of the frontage on this block of Rayner. What good that's going to do us, I don't know, because these parcels are only 60 feet deep, but figure that out some other time. But it was the 2 on State that I requested from SIDA, and they asked me to also like Rayner. This is right across from the AOT tower, which is going to be one of the first renovations that starts with all of SHA's Blueprint 15 projects. They should be starting soon, actually. And either MBS, who is SHA's development partner, McCormick Parent Salazar, either them or their contractor, Peter White, would like to lease, I'm sorry, not Peter White, would like to lease that site from us temporarily for construction staging to keep all their equipment and materials for the project across the street. We think that that's totally doable, and while they are using it, we can keep working on Blueprint 15 to come up with a plan for what we ultimately want to see happen there, issue an RFP, start recruiting developers, and do all that legwork while they're using the site for construction staging. By the time they're done, we'd be ready for something to start on our site. But all of that, negotiating the lease and everything is down the road. First, we just want to try to assemble these parcels. So I want to make you aware that we're negotiating this with SIDA right now. All right, next up, we have spent 75% of our current Land Bank initiative contract. We need to spend the rest of that down by December 1st, but now that we've hit that 75% mark, we are eligible to apply for more. In this next round, they've added 1 eligible activity. We can now use their money for new construction subsidy as well. And we think that we will want to do so when we get going with Jubilee on these 40 homes that we're talking about over on the near west side. I thought we were basically going to have to choose either use it for new construction or keep doing what we've been doing with demos and stabilization. And I reached out to Crystal Walker, the owner, to discuss this with her. She thinks that we're probably a few months down the road from actually being ready to apply for AHOP. And even then, once we apply, it'll take some time to get under contract with the state and get started. I also spoke with the AHOP folks, and they confirmed that we should apply for that first, and then later secure a commitment for the LBI matching, so we don't have to come to them with the LBI committed. And Crystal surprised me and suggested that we could have two contracts going simultaneously, one for the construction and another for what we've been doing with demos and stabilizations. So she recommended that we apply right away to do more demos and stabilizations. If they're saying to come apply for their money, I think it would be foolish not to.
Is that a separate application later then?
Yeah, we would apply later for the new construction piece. So in the past, you know, we have done 50 demolitions with $1.5 million from them. I'm suggesting that our unit cost would be significantly higher in this next round. And then we could guarantee somewhere between 15 and 23 demolitions with $1.1 million. Because we have an awful lot of commercial properties that need to come down that we're getting ready to put out to bid. They're larger, many of them are masonry structures, there's gonna be more expensive demos. I anticipate that we will exceed this number of deliverables, but, you know, I always have to promise low. And then we'll deliver. So this is what we are planning to apply for, is another batch of $2 million to fund demos and 10 stabilizations.
Aligned with this, what about the Leapus property that they lined up for Light Tech?
No, so they are also not going to be applying for this week's deadline for Light Tech because they haven't gotten the HHAP money. Help me remember what HHAP stands for. Almost in housing. Thank you. So almost all of the 9% Light Techs these days have to have some other supportive housing money from the state in there to work. And they want you to see that you have your HHAP committed before they'll award you Light Tech. They have applied 2 years in a row for HHAP and been denied both years. And so they're contemplating, Acacia has been their main nonprofit partner in this application, even though Maria is the applicant. They're contemplating partnering with another agency to hopefully be more successful at securing the HHAP money, or potentially rethinking the project. Right now it's 60 some units, rethinking it and breaking it into multiple smaller projects that would get funded some other way, probably not Light Tech. So knowing that the deadline is this week, their consultant, David Alexander, is very busy working for all of our other clients, getting their Light Tech applications in. And as soon as this deadline passes, I'm gonna reach out and schedule a meeting with her, and we'll probably go to talk about how do we want to reinvent this to approach the plan. Yes.
Ramona, you know anything about that? Are you guys aware of that? They're not.
Yeah, I don't understand some.
So, okay.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating, but, you know, these projects often take several years to get funded. It's disappointing to me have to get over that HHAP hurdle again.
Is it just the way they move? Is it a partner or like?
I think it's more about Acacia being the applicant. So the question is, would they likely be successful with another partner? Or if that's too big of a gamble, do the project in a different way, change out the project into smaller increments? HHAP is out of money for the year, so they'll get
It's a
more.
drug.
Yeah, they'll get more in the next budget cycle, so, the state budget usually passes April 1st, fiscal year starts in May. So HHAP wouldn't even release another application until May. We wouldn't know probably until at least 60 days after that what's getting funded from that application. It's a long time to wait for an unsure thing.
Part of the challenge, I mean, it's a huge project for developer we're going down with. So that's probably a lot of one that's.
Well, I'm not criticizing.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, I think that's why I don't just, it's too good a project for.
Where are we? New York State Home Funds, we currently have these 4 addresses out to bid. I'm hoping to get firm pricing from contractors soon, and then we'll use that to put together our budgets and be ready to apply for home. They will fund up to $250,000 per unit, and you can apply for up to 4 at a time, either new construction or rehabs, and these are all the gut rehabs. They're all single-family homes. 3 of them are already got down to the studs. For 301 West Hollow, part of the scope of work for the rehab is to first cut it down to the studs. So they'll have all new mechanicals, all new everything. Basically, the only thing we're keeping is the frame of these houses. So I'm hoping that our pricing comes back as we're expecting, and that 250,000 will be plenty of subsidy for each of these. And if so, then we'll be gearing up to submit that application as soon as we can complete it.
I think I lived there, but we can't.
Small.
Yeah, I know, well, I lived a lot of places.
And then we're also gearing up to apply for TA Brownfield Cleanup Grant, which is exciting. We're on our second assessment grant right now, which provides money for testing, but we have never secured money for cleanup from them. The idea was that with this testing money, we would identify sites that need cleanup. We can use their assessment grant to pay our consultants to write the cleanup application, which is fantastic. And I want to make a modification here. I thought we would apply for 500 Holly, which is Patrick's Dry Cleaners, in 917 Montgomery. 917 Montgomery is a small former auto repair shop in the corner of Burke and Montgomery.
Sure.
Area. Okay. But 500 Holly, I don't think we're ready yet. This ongoing saga. The city has owned it for, I'd say, almost 3 years at this point. It's not our intention. When we started doing phase 2 that was funded by the EPA, their consultants immediately referred it to the Superfund division because there was so much contamination. And they are incredibly slow over there. And the Superfund folks have been doing additional testing and some removals, but until they're done, we aren't eligible to apply for cleanup money. So I'm trying to urge them to wrap it up. And I'm thinking maybe October of 2025, we'll be ready to apply. If we're successful, we'll actually get to start spending that money in October of 26 to start cleaning this site up. So 500 Holly is off the table for the time being, which means we can probably add 541 Seymour to our application that will be going in this fall. That is commonly known as the Consolidated Industries Building, which is huge. It spans all the way from Seymour to Shawner. The parcel is about 1.8 acres. The building's around 35,000 square feet. It needs soil remediation and some limited groundwater remediation. For
Full
soil,
of stuff, isn't it?
we've gotten a lot of stuff out of there, which was incredibly time consuming. At that point, we were thinking that maybe somebody could rehab the structure. And it's an industrial building in a residential zoning district. So I thought if we could get somebody to save the building, we could probably get a use variance to allow them to use it for an industrial purpose. But the building is really beyond saving at this point. And once it gets down to vacant land, there's no chance we're going to get a use variance. It's going to have to go back to a residential use, which means we're going to have to achieve a higher level of cleanup. So the good news is, if demolition is necessary in order to get down to the soil so we can do soil remediation, we can roll the cost of the demo into the cost of the cleanup in our grant. And CMS estimates it's about a $1.4 million demolition. And then probably another $1 million in soil remediation after that. So we're planning to apply for that this fall, and keep your fingers crossed that we will then be able to get rid of this giant albatross.
The only thing it's going to cost 1.4 after that, all this, but it's a huge impact on the buildings.
About half of that is just asbestos abatement, and the rest of it would be the demolition itself. A lot of this, it's mostly a steel structure, and all the steel would actually go to scrap. And there are concrete block walls, but that can be broken up and reused as hard fill elsewhere. It doesn't contain asbestos. And then the slab is it's a huge concrete slab, and that's gotta go somewhere.
That concrete can be recycled as well.
Yeah.
Be crushed and recycled.
So there's not a whole lot of material that would actually go to the landfill once you take away the steel and the concrete. Rotten wood beams, old roofing. There's a small portion of the building on the Seymour side that was divided into offices, where there is, framing and sheetrock, but it's a very small portion of the overall building. And this grant would also include disposal of all those mystery materials that we have yet to identify in drums and tanks throughout the building.
Extreme materials, that's always encouraging.
Yeah. So all of those problems would be wrapped up into one cleanup project. So that's the plan.
Can I circle back to the hollow for a second?
Yeah.
And one point I feel like we were talking to the neighboring property owner, did that ever?
They were not willing to sell to us. Hopefully that will change down the road.
They know his house.
I don't think that they know that our site is a Superfund site. I would be shocked if the contamination isn't leaching under their building. Some of the neighbors' homes, EPA has gotten voluntary access to, and they've done soil vapor testing in the basements and found that there is soil vapor intrusion, where they basically need to install something like a radon system to deal with the indoor air quality. But a lot of the neighbors are not voluntarily letting them in, so they haven't done testing in all of the neighboring properties. And that's one of the questions that we're working on now is, let's say we're able to get it, and we get a cleanup grant to clean up our site. Who's gonna chase the contamination to all the neighboring sites and pay for that cleanup? And we're trying to do all the pre-acquisition documentation that we should, due diligence to show that we're a bona fide purchaser and we're not liable for this contamination that predates us. But somebody's gotta pay for it. The owner of the dry cleaner is deceased. We wanna make sure that it's the DEC or the EPA paying for it, not us. Yeah. It's a mess.
The estimates are millions. The estimates are millions, 2 million minimum just on site.
Everyone I've spoken to at the EPA says that they've never seen this dense of a concentration in one spot. I honestly have no idea, were they just dumping it into the ground? I don't, just make any
That's right.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, usually when they're in the city, it goes down the sewer, the drain out to the sewer system. So either their pipes were very leaky or they were just dumping it down a drain that's infected.
And in this case too, the building will have to be demolished in order to do the remediation that's necessary. And that property owner that we were trying to buy from, they share a party wall with us. So I'm really hoping that when we do get to that point, we can just acquire their property and take them both down at the same time. Certainly we're gonna have to do remediation under their slab, or somebody will. So lots of exciting projects coming up.
Okay, so, go to executive session.
Sorry, before we do that, we skipped over the update on city tax book. I didn't know if there was anything more that you wanted to share. Discussion I made.
Item A, under discussion. Next page.
Oh, I'm sorry. That must have been a. Yeah, I guess I screwed that up, I'm sorry. It doesn't match the first page, I messed that up at some point. So we did get 10 vacant lots from the city last month. We are supposed to get another batch of buildings, a large batch of buildings on the 19th, this Thursday. That's looking pretty good. One of those has filed a claim. This will be our first instance of dealing with that. We will have to get it appraised. It is occupied. I've been trying to make contact with this person. I'd like to get the appraiser in there immediately with the title. I've left handwritten notes, I've left voicemails, she's not calling me back. So if we have to, we'll just appraise based on the exterior only. It's a single family house. It definitely needs a new roof siding and windows from what I can see from the outside. Who knows what it needs on the inside, but I'm assuming a lot of work. It's $97,000 tax delinquent. So I'm curious to see if there will be any surplus. If it appraises for more than 97,000, then we will have to have a hearing. So we're just gonna go through the steps and see how it goes.
Was it just a letter from her or just a notification from the person who owns it or was a lawyer involved?
She's the only one that has filed a claim. It was her own handwritten claim. No attorney, as far as we're aware, and no other judgment holders or lien holders filed claims.
So this is owner occupied.
Yes. There are a number of owner-occupied properties in this round, two of which have just said, look, we can't, there's no way we can catch up, there's no way we can pay, and they are planning on working with Catholic Charities for relocation assistance. This is a third one that I don't know what we're gonna do, she's not returning my calls. And then there was a fourth one that we actually asked the city to hold off on. We found out that the owner passed away in December, and her 2 adult sons are living in the house. There was no will, and there's actually a hearing today, I think, for the county administrator to get appointed to administer the estate. And once she is appointed, then she'll have access to a lot more information and we can try to sort things out, like to help keep them home. Thank you.
Dave, motion, executive session.
To discuss ongoing issues.
That gets sent off, yeah? Yes.
You can invite whomever you would like to stay, and you might want to invite Mo to stay since he's going to be a
Mo to stay.
board member next month.
Yeah. If you want to stay out, you can, that's up to you.
I assume you want me to stay.
Didn't want to get